I told them I couldn't feel my legs. My father rolled his eyes. My mother whispered, "You're ruining the party." And my brother? He laughed. That was the moment I realized. I wasn't just injured. I was alone. But what they didn't know was that their denial, their cruelty, their silence was about to make them criminals. This isn't just a story about a fall. It's about a lifetime of gaslighting, a birthday party turned into a crime scene, and how I went from being the family scapegoat to the woman who finally said, "Enough. Stay with me, because this story changes everything." My name is Harper Lane. I'm 27 years old. And I used to think pain was something you could just outgrow. Because growing up in the Lane household meant one thing. Appearances were everything. We had the big house on the hill in Asheville, North Carolina. A perfectly manicured lawn, fresh flowers on the porch, and holiday cards sent out in matching outfits. To the neighbors, we were picture perfect. But inside that house, there were cracks no one could see. My father, Greg Lane, was the kind of man who never raised his voice, but made you feel small with a single glance. He built a real estate empire from scratch, and believed emotions were weaknesses that successful people couldn't afford. His motto: no excuses, no drama, just results. My mother, Colleen, was always beautifully put together. Hair curled, pearls on her neck, smiling like she was starring in a magazine ad for Family Bliss. But behind that smile was a woman constantly walking on eggshells, terrified of disruption, allergic to conflict. And then there was Emmett, my older brother by 2 years. The golden boy, the athlete, the charmer, the one who never got caught, because he always knew how to play the part. He learned early that if he smiled wide enough, cracked the right joke, or blamed it on me, he'd get away with anything. And I became the scapegoat, the oversensitive one, the problem. I remember being 8 years old when Emmett locked me in the linen closet for 3 hours just to see if I'd cry. I did. Loudly. But when I told my parents, my father shook his head and said, "If you can scream like that, you're not really hurt." And my mother? She said, "Let's not make this a big deal. He's just being a boy." That was the story of my childhood. A series of invisible bruises and very visible silence. If Emmett tripped me and I fell, it was because I was clumsy. If I failed a test, it was because I let my emotions get in the way. If I cried, it was for attention. And slowly, piece by piece, I stopped raising my voice. Stopped asking for help. Stopped believing I deserved any. But here's the thing about silence. It doesn't protect you. It just delays the explosion. Because when you've spent your whole life being told your pain doesn't matter, there comes a day when the pain grows teeth. And my day was coming. Faster than I could have imagined. I moved out the day I turned 18. No fight. No dramatic goodbye. Just a packed suitcase, a bus ticket to Chapel Hill, and a silent vow. I'll never let them break me again. And for a while, I kept that promise. I built a new life. Slowly. Carefully. A one-bedroom apartment filled with plants and books. A job at an animal rescue center where no one cared who my family was. Friends who actually listened when I spoke. I wasn't healed. Far from it. But I was finally breathing. Therapy helped. I started learning terms like emotional neglect, scapegoat dynamic, and trauma bonding. It was like holding up a flashlight in a dark cave, and finally seeing the monsters were real. And they had my last name. But trauma has a funny way of pulling you back just when you think you've escaped. It started with a voicemail from my mother. "Sweetheart, it would mean so much to your brother if you came. He's turning 30, you know. It's a big deal." I didn't answer. The next day, a text from Emmett himself. 3 words. "Don't be petty." Then came the guilt. The inner tug-of-war. What if they've changed? What if I'm overreacting? What if I just show up, stay polite, and leave early? Because even after all the therapy, the boundaries, the distance, there's still that little girl inside me, begging to be seen. To be treated like I mattered. Just once. So, I gave in. I RSVP'd yes. I told myself I was strong enough now, that I could handle a few fake smiles, a few loaded comments, a few hours of pretending we were something resembling a family. I was wrong. So very dangerously wrong. The party was set for Sunday afternoon. Backyard barbecue. Pool deck. Dozens of guests. I packed an overnight bag, but booked a hotel room instead of staying at the house. That was my line. I would show up, but I would not sleep under their roof again. I even picked my outfit carefully. Dark jeans, a pale green blouse, flats. Respectable enough for my father's standards. But still me. As I drove the 2 hours back to Asheville, I practiced everything my therapist had taught me. Deep breaths. Visualize safety. You are allowed to leave. You do not owe anyone your comfort. And yet, the closer I got to that house, the tighter my chest became. Because deep down I think I already knew. This wouldn't be just another uncomfortable family event. This would be the day everything broke. And I wouldn't be walking away from it. I pulled into the driveway at exactly 2 p.m. Right on time. Not early enough for awkward small talk. Not late enough to draw attention. Just invisible enough. The house looked exactly the same. Immaculate, smug, suffocating. Luxury SUVs and sports cars lined the street. Emmett's friends, no doubt. The kind of men who peaked in high school, but still wore Letterman jackets to tailgates. I took a deep breath and stepped out of my car. You're here on your terms, I reminded myself. You're not that girl anymore. My mother answered the door with her signature air kiss and a thin smile that never touched her eyes. Harper. You made it. Everyone's out back. Emmett just opened his presents. Of course they started without me. Classic. Inside, the house smelled like expensive candles and grilled meat. The gift table was piled with designer bags, electronics, and on top, a framed photo of a brand new jet ski. Your father's having it delivered this week, my mom said proudly. You know how much your brothers always wanted one. I nodded. Said nothing. For my 27th birthday last month, they mailed me a $50 gas card. No call. No cake. No comment. The disparity had stopped surprising me years ago, but it still stung, like a paper cut you forgot about until it hit salt. I placed my envelope, $200 cash, no note, quietly among the mountain of gifts, and followed my mother through the kitchen to the backyard. That's when I saw it. The pool deck. Newly constructed. Brazilian hardwood. Custom-built railing. The centerpiece of my father's suburban kingdom. He stood at the grill like a commander at his post, flipping steaks with surgical precision. Emmett held court near the pool, surrounded by his frat boy entourage, beer in one hand, loud laugh booming across the yard. He'd gained weight, muscle turned to bulk, charisma turned to cockiness. When he spotted me, he swaggered over. Look who decided to show up. Little sis live and in the flesh. His hug was too tight, too long. One of those alpha dominance displays dressed as affection. Happy birthday, I said flatly, stepping back. Thanks. Dad really went all out this year. Did you see the deck? 20 grand easy. He looked over my shoulder, already bored. Help yourself to a drink. Try not to be so serious, yeah? It's a party. I made a beeline for the cooler and grabbed a bottle of water. Alcohol would dull my instincts, and today I needed all of them sharp. For the next hour, I stayed in the shadows, chatting with a few girlfriends of his friends who, like me, were just surviving the testosterone tornado. But as the sun climbed higher and the beer flowed faster, the tone shifted. Emmett's voice got louder. His stories got crueler. Remember that time we convinced Harper the neighbor's dog had rabies? She didn't leave the house for a week. Laughter exploded. Then another voice chimed in. Tyler, Emmett's lifelong sidekick. Or the shampoo swap. God, she looked like a molting bird. More laughter. My hands clenched around my water bottle. I took a step back, ready to leave. Ready to walk away from this whole scene like I'd done 100 times before. But Emmett saw me moving. Whoa, 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 leaving already? The party's just getting started. His words were slurred now. His eyes glassy. He reached for my arm, but I dodged it. I've got a long drive, I said. Come on, Harper. One drink. One toast. Don't be such a buzzkill. I said no. And there it was, the shift. His smile cracked. His voice dropped. Still the same uptight bitch, huh? That's when I turned. I didn't care if anyone saw. I didn't care what they thought. I was done. I just needed to grab my purse from the living room and get out. The sliding glass door was across the deck, past the pool. I took the shortest path. My flats hit the wood. And something felt wrong. Too smooth. Too slick. I looked down. There was a faint sheen across the boards. Subtle. Oily. I didn't have time to process before my foot slid forward violently. And in that frozen heartbeat, I knew. This wasn't just bad luck. This was sabotage. And I was already falling. Time didn't slow down. It shattered. One moment I was walking. The next, I was in the air, weightless and helpless, arms flailing, heels skimming across oiled wood like ice. Then, impact. The back of my pelvis slammed into the concrete edge of the pool. Then my head. A crack of white heat exploded behind my eyes like fireworks. And then, silence. No sound. No breath. Just sky. Blue, blinding, merciless sky. I don't know how long I lay there before I realized something was wrong. More wrong than pain. More wrong than the blood I could taste in my mouth. I couldn't feel my legs. Nothing. From the waist down, a terrifying void. I tried to sit up. My arms trembled. My core wouldn't respond. Help, I gasped. Help me. Nobody moved. I blinked against the sun, and the first face that appeared was Emmett's. He was grinning. Nice pratfall, sis. Always had a flair for the dramatic. Laughter around him. My heart was pounding, but my limbs, they weren't listening. I'm serious, I said, my voice catching. I can't move. Something's wrong. I hit my back. Emmett rolled his eyes. Oh please. You're not about to hijack my birthday with one of your stunts. I was crying now. Not from pain, though there was plenty of that, but from something worse. Fear. I can't feel my legs, Emmett. I'm not joking. Please call someone. More people were gathering. Faces blurred, uncomfortable, unsure. Some smirking. Some looking away. And still, no one helped. Then came the voice I thought would save me. What's going on here? My father barked, pushing through the circle. Why are you on the ground? Dad. I sobbed. I fell. I hit the deck. I hit the concrete. I can't feel anything. I think my back. Oh, for God's sake, he interrupted. The deck's perfectly safe. I had it sealed by professionals. He turned to the guests. She's always been dramatic. Walk it off, Harper. You're making a scene. That sentence. That goddamn sentence. I could barely breathe, and he wanted me to walk it off. My mother appeared, perfectly composed as always, whispering with a strained smile. Harper, get up. People are watching. I can't. My voice cracked. I need an ambulance. She knelt down beside me, face tight, and hissed through her teeth. You are ruining your brother's party. And that's when I realized. They weren't going to help me. They were going to watch me suffer, again, just like they always had. Because protecting the illusion was more important than protecting me. I was shaking. My head was throbbing. Sweat poured down my face. My fingers started tingling, signs of shock. Please, I whispered, barely audible. Somebody help me. And then, a new voice. Firm, calm, unfamiliar. Excuse me. I'm a nurse. Let me through. The crowd parted. A woman I didn't know knelt beside me. Her hands already checking my pulse. Her eyes were kind. Her touch was confident. Hi there. I'm Rachel. I work in the ER at Mission Hospital. Can you tell me your name? Harper, I choked out. I can't feel my legs. Her face didn't flinch. But I saw it. That flicker of concern. Okay, Harper. I'm going to check a few things. But I need you to stay absolutely still. She pressed her fingers down my thighs. Asked if I could feel it. I couldn't. She asked me to move my toes. Nothing. Then she turned to the guests. She has signs of spinal trauma. She needs to be immobilized and transported immediately. I'm calling 911. My mother tried to protest. An ambulance? That's not necessary. She's just upset. Rachel turned cold. Ma'am, if you move her, you could paralyze her permanently. Do you want that responsibility? For the first time, silence. And in that silence, the truth hung heavy. I wasn't overreacting. They were undercaring. The sirens came minutes later. But by then, everything had already changed. My family hadn't just failed me. They had crossed a line. And there would be no going back. The sirens pierced the silence like a blade. I heard them before I saw them. Growing louder, closer, cutting through the haze of heat, fear, and humiliation. Rachel never left my side. "Help is almost here," she whispered, brushing the sweat from my forehead. "Just hang on, Harper. You're doing great." Great. I couldn't feel half my body. I was flat on my back, staring at a sky that suddenly felt like a ceiling closing in. I was surrounded by people, guests, family, bystanders. And yet I'd never felt more alone. My mother stood off to the side, wringing her hands and stealing glances at the neighbors. My father paced near the grill, jaw tight, muttering into his phone. And Emmett? He was gone. Vanished. Coward. Then the paramedics arrived, 3 of them, moving with a calm urgency that only people trained for chaos seemed to have. The lead medic was a woman named Sarah. Her voice was strong but gentle. "Hi Harper, I'm Sarah. We're going to take care of you, okay?" I nodded. Barely. They placed a cervical collar around my neck and began assessing the injury. Rachel quickly debriefed them. Symptoms: fall, lack of sensation, suspected spinal trauma. Then came the question that shifted everything. "Was the surface you fell on naturally slippery?" Sarah asked. "Or do you believe there was something on it?" Before I could answer, Rachel spoke up. "There was oil on the deck. I touched it. It wasn't water. It had viscosity, like deck sealant or lubricant." Sarah's expression changed. Professional. Alert. She turned to the younger medic. "Mike, document the surface. Photos, samples." Now, I watched, strapped to a backboard, as Mike knelt near the pool and began examining the wood. He pulled on gloves, dabbed a white cloth across the planks, then held it up. Shiny. Greasy. Not water. Meanwhile, Sarah leaned down beside me. "Harper, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest. Do you know how that oil got there?" I hesitated, but only for a moment. "My brother," I said. "His name's Emmett. He joked earlier. Something about making me slip. I thought he was just being a jerk. But he did this. He said it was a prank." Sarah's eyes narrowed. "A prank?" "He put something on the deck. I saw the look on his face right before I fell. He was waiting for it." She stood, walked over to Rachel and the others. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw heads nod. Radios click. Cameras flash. Then Emmett reappeared. He had a beer in one hand, shirt untucked, swaggering like nothing had happened. Until Sarah turned and faced him directly. "Sir, were you responsible for applying any substance to the deck where your sister fell?" Emmett blinked. "It was just a joke," he muttered, suddenly unsure of himself. "I didn't mean for her to. I just thought she'd slip a little. Maybe get wet." "So you applied oil or sealant to an area where someone might walk?" "It wasn't a lot. Enough to cause a fall resulting in suspected spinal trauma." The words hit like a gunshot. The laughter from earlier was gone. Now there was only silence. And eyes. All on him. I didn't mean to hurt her," Emmett stammered. "It was her idea to walk across it. She should have." "Sir, that's enough," Sarah cut him off. "Mike, call it in. We're requesting police backup." "Police?" My father barked, storming forward. "Hold on. This is a misunderstanding. My son didn't mean anything. She fell. That's all." Sarah turned, her tone icy. "Your daughter reported loss of sensation from the waist down. There was a significant delay in seeking medical attention. Witnesses report you dismissed her symptoms. A hazardous surface was deliberately created. That's not a misunderstanding. That's negligence, and potentially criminal intent." My father opened his mouth, then shut it. For once in his life, he had nothing to say. As the paramedics prepared to lift me onto the stretcher, I caught one last glimpse of Emmett. No more smirk. No more bravado. Just a pale, shaken man, watching his perfect world fracture under the weight of one harmless prank. The inside of the ambulance was cold. Not just in temperature, but in feeling. Clinical. Metallic. Efficient. They strapped me to the stretcher, Tubes in my arm, oxygen over my nose. Machines beeped beside my head like a countdown I didn't understand. Sarah rode in the back with me, her voice calm and steady. Harper, you're stable. That's a good sign. But you need to know, we're treating this as a spinal cord trauma until proven otherwise. Spinal cord trauma. I'd heard those words on TV, in documentaries, in worst-case medical disclaimers. But not in reference to me. Not in this body that used to jog trails, carry rescue dogs, climb 3 flights of stairs to my apartment without a second thought. Am I going to walk again? I asked. Sarah didn't answer. She just looked at me, really looked, and that told me everything I needed to know. I blacked out somewhere between the sirens and the ER doors. When I woke up, I was in a hospital bed, stiff with wires, monitors, and pain. The world felt slower, duller, like it had lost its edges. Then came the doctor. A woman in her 50s. Silver streaks in her hair. Kind, steady hands. Good morning, Harper. I'm Dr. Morales. I'm the neurosurgeon overseeing your care. My throat was dry, my lips cracked. What happened? I asked. She pulled up a chair, sat beside me like she had all the time in the world. You suffered an incomplete spinal cord injury at the T12-L1 junction, lower thoracic and upper lumbar spine. The fall fractured 2 vertebrae and compressed your spinal cord significantly. I stared at her, blinking. The words were English, but the meaning refused to register. We performed emergency surgery to decompress the spine and stabilize the vertebrae with rods and screws. The good news is, the cord wasn't completely severed. That means there's still hope. Hope, I repeated hollow. So, I'll walk again? She didn't sugarcoat it. We don't know yet. Some function may return. Some may not. Everyone's recovery is different. You'll need aggressive rehab, physical therapy, and time. Months. Maybe years. I nodded, but something inside me had already snapped. Not in anger. Not even in fear. Just numbness. What about my legs? I asked. Why can't I feel them? Because right now, the signal from your brain isn't making it all the way down your spinal cord. Think of it like a blocked road. We've cleared some of the debris, but there's damage. Scar tissue. Swelling. That's what we're fighting. She paused. You may regain some sensation. You may regain control. But it won't be instant. And it won't be easy. Tears came without warning. Not loud. Not theatrical. Just quiet, persistent streams running down my cheeks. They didn't believe me, I whispered. Dr. Morales didn't ask who they were. She didn't have to. I believe you, she said simply. The nurse came in to check my vitals. Another hooked up more meds. Voices swirled around me, measured, practiced, indifferent. But inside me, something new was waking up. A kind of rage I hadn't felt in years. Because this time, this wasn't just emotional. This was physical, tangible, measurable. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't dramatic. I was paralyzed. And someone did this to me. My brother. My family. The people who were supposed to protect me. They didn't just ignore my pain this time. They caused it. I don't remember what time it was when the police came. The lights in my hospital room were dim, but not dark. The clock on the wall ticked with surgical detachment. Machines beeped. The morphine haze was wearing off, and pain crept in like fog through an open window. There was a knock on the door. Then it opened. 2 women entered. Not nurses. Not doctors. Detectives. The older one introduced herself first. Detective Sullivan, Asheville PD. This is Officer Chin. May we sit with you for a moment? I nodded. Slowly. My throat still burned from the breathing tube they'd taken out that morning. We're here to talk about what happened at your brother's birthday party, Sullivan said, voice even but not unkind. Do you feel up to answering some questions? I cleared my throat. Yes. And so I told them. Everything. The slick deck. The fall. The pain. The way my brother smiled when he saw me lying there. The way my parents told me to walk it off. The way I begged. And begged. Until a stranger, Rachel, finally believed me. I told them how Emmett had joked earlier about making someone slip. How he laughed about it. How he disappeared when the ambulance came. Sullivan was silent as I spoke, but she took notes. Officer Chin did too. Occasionally they glanced at one another. Never interrupted. When I finished, I asked the question sitting heavy in my chest. Is my brother going to get away with this? Sullivan exhaled, then nodded slowly. No. He won't. Emmett Lane was taken into custody last night. He admitted to applying oil-based deck sealant to a portion of the pool deck as what he called a prank. He's being charged with reckless endangerment resulting in serious bodily harm, which under North Carolina law is a felony. My mouth went dry. I swallowed hard. Felony, I repeated. Like prison? Yes. She let that sink in for a beat. Your parents, that's a more complex situation. What do you mean? Multiple witnesses reported that you begged for medical attention. That your symptoms, loss of sensation, inability to move, were dismissed for over 20 minutes before any action was taken. That delay could have worsened your injury. Could have. I asked, almost laughing. So they're not sure yet if I'll ever walk again. And they waited. Argued. Blamed me. Told people I was performing. Sullivan's voice softened. We're pursuing charges of criminal negligence and failure to provide medical aid. They're not felonies, but they're serious. And they matter. I turned my face toward the window. Rain was falling. Slow. Relentless. I hadn't even noticed. No one from my family has called, I said. Not even to ask if I'm alive. They've been advised not to contact you directly, Officer Chin said gently. Your brother has a lawyer. Your parents have one too. But you should know, your story is being taken seriously. Seriously. For the first time in my life, that word felt real. The detective stood. If you decide to pursue civil charges, Sullivan added, we can help connect you with the right resources. Civil charges? To recover damages. Medical bills, lost wages, pain and suffering. Pain and suffering. I almost laughed again. What number do you put on being paralyzed by people who raised you? What's the market value of betrayal? When they left, a hospital social worker came in. His name was Marcus. Mid-30s. Calm eyes. No clipboard. Just a chair and a warm tone. Hey Harper. I'll be helping you coordinate next steps. Rehab. Disability resources. Legal support if you choose to go that route. I looked down at my legs, motionless beneath a fleece blanket. Foreign. Forgotten. How long until I know if I'll walk again? I asked. There's no clear answer, he said honestly. Some function might come back. Some might not. But the sooner we start therapy, the better your odds. Therapy. I repeated like it was a foreign word. You mean physical? That too. But I also mean emotional. Psychological. He looked me in the eyes. What happened to you isn't just physical. This was trauma. Layered trauma. And it started long before you hit the concrete. My chest tightened. He saw it. All of it. The good news, he added. You're not alone anymore. He left me with a packet of paperwork. But all I could do was stare at the ceiling. The ceiling of a hospital room that might as well have been a courtroom. Because the verdict was already in. They didn't just fail me. They damaged me. And now they'll finally face consequences. But first, I had to decide who I wanted to become next. 2 weeks after the fall, I was transferred to a spinal cord rehabilitation center, just outside of Charlotte. The irony wasn't lost on me. I couldn't walk, and yet this was where I'd learned to move forward. The building was bright, almost too cheerful. Floor-to-ceiling windows, polished tile, motivational posters on every wall. Progress, not perfection. You only lose when you stop trying. The comeback is stronger than the setback. I hated them all. Because on that first day, I didn't feel like a comeback story. I felt broken. They wheeled me into a room I'd share with another patient. Tara, a woman in her early 30s who'd been in a car accident 2 years ago. She wore braces on her legs and moved with forearm crutches, slow but steady. Her eyes were kind. Her voice was blunt. Don't try to be brave for me. This sucks. We both know it. I liked her instantly. Physical therapy started the next morning. David, my therapist, was a tall guy with forearms like steel cables and the patience of a saint. He didn't sugarcoat things. Your injury is incomplete, which means your spinal cord wasn't fully severed. That's our best shot. But we've got to work every damn day to find out what your body still remembers how to do. Day 1. He asked me to sit up. I couldn't. Day 2. He asked me to lift my right leg. Nothing. Day 3. He asked me to move my toes. They twitched. Barely. That's not nothing, he said. That's the beginning. Meanwhile, the legal updates kept coming. My attorney, Michael Greenberg, visited the rehab center with a folder full of witness statements and evidence photos. We've filed the civil suit, he said. Your brother's admission is on record. The paramedics report. The video footage from one of the guests who was filming near the pool. It's all here. What are the chances we win? I asked. Hi, he said. But this isn't about revenge, Harper. This is about survival. Financial, medical, emotional. You're entitled to hold them accountable and protect your future. I nodded. For once, I didn't feel guilty for wanting justice. I felt ready. Tara and I became friends. Real ones. She taught me how to transfer from bed to wheelchair without falling. How to shower sitting down. How to tell the difference between phantom pain and muscle spasm. One night, over hospital food and bad TV, I asked her, when did it stop feeling like the end of the world? She thought for a second. It didn't, she said. It just started to feel like a different world. One I had to learn how to live in. But once I did, God, it was mine. Her words hit me harder than any medicine. Because I realized something. For most of my life, I'd been living in a world that wasn't mine. A world dictated by my family's expectations. Their silence. Their power. And now, even in a body that didn't work the way it used to, I had more agency than ever. I was making decisions. Choosing who to trust. Who to fight. What to feel. And maybe that was the real beginning. Not when I stood. Not when I walked. But when I stopped letting them define me. It started with a twitch. My left leg. 3 weeks into rehab. A flicker so subtle I almost missed it. Until David saw my eyes widen. You felt that? I think so. I whispered. We repeated the movement. Again. Again. Then it happened. My quad engaged. Not a full lift. Not even an inch off the mat. But it moved. On command. I cried. So did David. That small victory became the first domino. Every day, we pushed a little harder. Braces on both legs. Parallel bars. Core training. Mirror therapy. Visualizing every muscle, every movement, until neurons remembered paths they hadn't used in weeks. Some days I made progress. Some days I screamed in frustration. Some days I sat in silence, staring at my reflection, and wondering if I'd ever recognize that woman again. But every day, I showed up. And little by little, so did my body. Outside therapy, I began working with a trauma specialist, Claire. A soft-spoken woman with sharp eyes and an uncanny ability to ask the one question that made everything unravel. Do you believe you deserved what happened to you? She asked one afternoon. I laughed bitterly. Of course not. That's not what your voice says. I stared at her. You were raised in a system where pain was dismissed, where your truth was questioned. That doesn't just disappear. Your body might be healing faster than your beliefs. She was right. I'd left that house years ago, but the shame had followed me like luggage I didn't remember packing. A few days later, I stood for the first time. Not for long. Not unaided. But I stood. Leg braces. Forearm crutches. Muscles trembling. But I was upright. Tara filmed it. David cried again. And me? I laughed. Not because I thought I was cured, but because for the first time in years, I felt powerful. Not in the way my family measured it. Not through control or status or silence. But in my own way. By reclaiming every inch of space they told me I was too dramatic to occupy. The news from the outside world kept coming. Michael, my attorney, called with updates. We've reached a proposed settlement, he said. Their homeowner's insurance will max out. But the bulk will come from their personal assets, including the sale of their house. The house I grew up in, where I learned to swallow pain like pills. Do you want to fight for more? He asked. No, I said. I want this chapter closed. He paused. There's one more thing. Your brother wrote a letter from jail. Do you want to see it? I thought for a long time. Yes, I said. But not yet. That night, I wheeled myself to the open therapy room and sat by the window, watching the sun disappear behind pine trees. Tara rolled up beside me. You okay? Yeah. I think I'm finally just tired of carrying things. Like what? I thought for a moment. Guilt. Rage. Needing answers from people who were never going to give them. She nodded. Let me guess. Now you're figuring out how to forgive them? No, I said. I'm figuring out how to forgive myself. Forever thinking their love was the only kind that mattered. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. When I left the rehab center, I wasn't walking freely. Not yet. I had braces, crutches, and a chair for long distances. My gait was slow, uneven, exhausting. But I was moving forward. And for the first time in my life, on my own terms. I moved into a small ground-floor apartment in Charlotte. It wasn't fancy, but it had everything I needed. Wide doorways, a roll-in shower, quiet neighbors, and no family portraits staring down from the walls. My old job at the animal rescue had long since been filled, but the director offered me a remote consulting role, helping train new staff, writing wellness guidelines, creating safety protocols. You've been through hell, she said. But you've also become someone people will listen to. And she was right. Because I was no longer the quiet girl in the background. I was the woman who survived. A few months after moving in, Tara invited me back to the rehab center. Not as a patient, but as a peer mentor. You remember what it felt like on day one, she said. Somebody needs to see you standing now. So I did. Twice a week, I rolled into that same therapy room where I once trembled on parallel bars. And sat beside people who were just beginning their fight. I told them the truth. That it wasn't easy. That there are still bad days. That grief comes in waves, and progress is painfully slow. But also, that you're not broken. You're being rebuilt. One story at a time. One breath at a time. 1 inch of muscle at a time. Somewhere along the way, I met Thomas. He was a physical therapist specializing in neuroinjuries. Calm, funny patient. We met during a joint rehab session with another patient. He made a joke about crutches not matching my outfit, and I rolled my eyes so hard he laughed out loud. Then it happened again. And again. Little by little, he chipped away at the wall I hadn't even realized I'd built. He didn't treat me like a tragedy. He didn't pity me. He saw me. Flawed. Fierce. In progress. And I began to see myself that way too. As my body healed, so did something deeper. With the help of Claire, my therapist, I began peeling back the layers of trauma I'd carried. 2 years. That's how long it's been since the party. Since the deck. Since the fall. Since I stopped waiting for them to see me. And started seeing myself. Emmett was released from prison 4 months ago. A letter came in the mail, thick with regret. Handwritten. Long. I let it sit on my kitchen table for 3 days. Then one night, with the rain tapping against the window and my hands steadier than they'd been in a long time, I opened it. He didn't make excuses. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He just told the truth. I was cruel. And I knew it. You were the easy target, the quiet one, and I abused that. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know. I see it now. And I'm sorry. And for the first time in our entire lives, I believed him. But I didn't write back. Not because I'm angry. Not because I want revenge. Because healing doesn't always mean reconnecting. Sometimes healing means closing the door, gently, but firmly. As for my parents, I haven't heard from them. Last I heard, they moved to Florida. They told their new community that I'd suffered a tragic accident. Left out the part where they watched it happen. Left out the delay, the silence, the humiliation. Of course they did. But their version of the story doesn't matter anymore. Because I'm not living in their narrative. I'm writing my own. Today, I live in a different apartment. One with ramps, grab bars, and sunlight pouring through every window. I work as a trauma-informed education consultant. I help teachers understand how to recognize the quiet children. The ones who don't cry out but bleed anyway. I mentor new spinal cord injury patients. I share my story on stages, in circles online. And sometimes, just sometimes I stand. With braces. With effort. With pride. But more importantly, I rise. Every damn day. I'm not the same woman who fell at that party. I'm not waiting for my parents to say, I'm sorry. I'm not chasing a brother's approval. I'm not trying to be normal again. Because what I've built now, it's better. It's mine. If you're watching this, and you've ever had your pain dismissed, if you've ever been told you were too sensitive, too dramatic, or making it up, let me be the one to tell you. You are not broken. You are not exaggerating. You are not alone. You are worthy of being heard, of being seen, of being believed. Even if they never say it to yourself. That's where healing begins. Not when they change, but when you do.
If this story resonated with you, leave a comment. Tell us, have you ever had to heal without an apology? And what gave you the strength to keep going anyway? Speech balloon, you never know. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Bell like, subscribe, and share if you believe in turning pain into power. And remember, your story isn't over. It's just beginning.